11 spine-chilling true tales exposed. Terrifying secrets revealed after midnight's haunted hour. It was after midnight, and darkness swallowed Maplewood whole. The streetlights flickered like dying stars, casting eerie shadows that danced menacingly across Sarah's path. She gripped the steering wheel, a chill running down her spine as she pulled into her cul-de-sac, a place that had once felt like a sanctuary. Tonight, that comfort seemed like a cruel joke. Fatigue clung to her like a second skin. She could sense it, the feeling that something wasn't right. The air crackled with tension, a silent threat waiting just beyond the borders of her neatly trimmed lawn. She parked and made her way inside. Every crunch of gravel beneath her feet echoed louder in the stillness. Just moments ago, she had been surrounded by the life-saving chaos of the hospital, where adrenaline coursed through her veins. Now, the mundane suburban silence felt somehow more sinister than the wildest hospital drama. The moment she stepped inside, Mia was there, sleepy-eyed and wrapped in her blanket. Every night, their routine was a comfort, a small island of normalcy. But tonight, even Mia's yawns couldn't shake the chilling sensation crawling up Sarah's spine. Once they settled into bedtime, the familiar creaks of their home transformed into sinister whispers. Outside, the wind rustled the bushes, and shadows loomed larger than life. It all felt wrong. "Mom, do you hear that?" Mia whispered, her little voice trembling. Sarah tried to brush it off, convincing both her daughter and herself that the fatigue from her night shift had distorted her perception. But when Mia timidly spoke of a figure lurking in the dilapidated house down the street, sleep was a fleeting dream. Days later, as she passed her neighbors, their cold stares pierced through her, making her skin crawl. They collectively held secrets that weathered the years, whispering rumors about the protector who vanished from that very house. Sarah felt an urgency to dive deeper. She needed to protect Mia. But every door knocked on resulted in icy shoulders, so practiced, so rehearsed, their smiles too tight, their laughter too hollow. The sense of exclusion haunted her as darkness wrapped its tendrils around Maplewood. The flickering lights seemed like a beacon of warning. Mia shared more whispers about shadows spidering across their windows. "He's watching us, Mommy," she'd say, her wide eyes reflecting fear. Sarah's heart raced now, every shadow growing more pronounced, every rustle sending shivers down her spine. What was happening? Was it the job wearing her thin, or something far more malignant festering in their neighborhood? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, it finally happened. A soft thud at the door shattered the silence, sending her heart into a chaotic frenzy. She crept towards the door, pulse pounding in her ears. Just beyond the flimsy wood, something waited, dark and unknowable. Fear wrapped around her like clenching fingers. Mia gasped and pulled at Sarah's sleeve. "It's him, Mommy." With a shaky breath, she peeked through the crack in the door. The figure was not familiar, not a smiling neighbor or a friend. Instead, it was something they had never seen before, a silhouette brimming with threat, stretching out in the night. Fear tightened its grip. Would she open the door to let the darkness in, or would she seal herself and Mia away to keep the horror at bay? As she opened the door just a crack, the shadows swirled, beckoning. Would they be consumed before dawn breaks? The door creaked, the sound dragging like nails on a chalkboard. The figure remained motionless, an outline among the shadows, as if the night itself was breathing around it. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum, raw and frantic. She could feel Mia's small body trembling next to her. Panic surged through her. The fleeting thought of slamming the door shut crossed her mind, but something, maybe curiosity, maybe dread, rooted her to the spot. Suddenly, the figure shifted, a movement as smooth and unnatural as oil slipping through water. It stepped closer, and the streetlights flickered above in response. casting a harsh light that danced across its features. Sarah squinted, desperately trying to distinguish the figure's face. What she saw made her breath hitch. A pair of hollow eyes glinted back at her, black and deep like bottomless wells. "Mommy," Mia whispered, her voice barely a breath. "It's okay, sweetie," Sarah croaked, forcing a calmness into her voice that she didn't feel. "Just stay behind me." The silhouette loomed larger, stretching into a grotesque shape that twisted and warped as if reality itself struggled to contain it. "Let me in," it rasped, a voice like dry leaves dragging over asphalt. Something primal deep inside Sarah screamed whatever this was. It was not welcome. She tightened her grip on the door, every instinct screaming for her to push it shut and secure them inside. Yet part of her was frozen, entranced by those empty eyes that promised knowledge and despair all at once. There was something familiar, something both alluring and horrific. "Mommy, please," Mia murmured, clutching Sarah's waist, feeling every muscle in her mother tense. It was a tether that pulled Sarah back from the brink. "No," Sarah shouted, the firm denial surprising even herself. She slammed the door shut, locking it with trembling hands. A loud bang reverberated on the wood as the figure struck, a forceful impact that rattled the house. "Mommy, I saw him again," Mia whimpered, her voice cracking. "He was right in my window, staring at me." The child's fear ignited a new wave of terror within Sarah. She rushed to the window, tearing apart the curtains, eyes sweeping through the gloom. She saw nothing, just the stillness of Maplewood, the streetlights flickering, a warning or a mockery. A sudden thought struck her. What if Mia's imagination was right? What if that shadow had been watching them, waiting all this time? "Mia, we need to stay quiet. If he comes back, we don't make any noise. Okay?" Sarah whispered, trying to calm the rising dread inside her. But as she turned, the room felt heavier, as if it had absorbed the panic radiating from them. They huddled together on the couch, the shadows closing in around them. The soft call of the wind outside merged with a distant echo, a low whisper that seemed to chant from the shadows. "Let me in, let me in." The walls rattled slightly, as if vibrating to the haunting rhythm of that phrase. Unable to shake the feeling of being watched, Sarah glanced toward the front door, feeling the weight of its darkened bulk. The flickering lights punctuated the oppressive silence, a countdown. Perhaps. "Mommy, Mommy." Mia's eyes were wide with fear, her finger pointing toward the hallway. "The lights are out there. Yes, coming. I can feel it." Before Sarah could respond, the lights around them flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness. Heart racing, she fumbled for her phone, its screen lighting up just enough to illuminate the edges of terror as shadows shifted around them. Suddenly, a crash sounded from the back of the house, the distinct noise of glass shattering. The feeling of icy fingers ran up Sarah's spine. "Stay behind me, Mia," she commanded. Though her voice wavered, should she confront whatever had infiltrated her home? Or did her instincts scream for her to flee? Mia squeezed her hand tighter, desperation in her grip. "Mommy, we need to go." With one last defiant look back at the door, Sarah understood. They couldn't stay here any longer. It was no longer a question of safety but survival. They moved toward the hallway, every creak echoing their descent into something much darker. What awaited them in their escape? But in that ever-compressing darkness, a new realization dawned. When you run from the shadows, often, they chase after you. They edged into the hallway, the air thick like fog, curling around them with a life of its own. Sarah clutched Mia's hand, her grip firm but trembling. Shadows writhed in the corners, tricking her into imagining forms lurking just out of sight. The silence was oppressive, heavy, as if the house held its breath, waiting for the next sound, the next movement. "Mommy, I don't want to be here," Mia whimpered, her voice trembling. "I know, baby. Just stay close." Sarah's voice was barely steadier than her daughter's. They tiptoed down the dim corridor, the splintered floorboards creaking underfoot, sharp sounds that felt like an alarm in the now haunted silence. Each step seemed to echo in the dark, and each echo masked whatever else might be lurking nearby. Sarah swallowed hard, her heart racing. Where could they even go? The nearest neighbor was a mile away, and there was no car in the driveway. Mia, listen, she whispered as they reached the staircase leading to the second floor. We need to go upstairs and find a place to hide. Why? Because we'll have to wait until morning. Until we can call for help. But even as she spoke, a part of her questioned that logic. Help? Would help come for them? The shadows seemed to shift in agreement. She finally took a breath and started moving up the stairs, Mia trailing behind her, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her mother's body. The soft, eerie glow from her phone illuminated the way, flickering with the electrical dysfunction humming throughout the house. A shadow darted past at the edge of her vision. No, just a trick of the light. But seconds later, a sound echoed from the back of the house, once more a low, thudding rhythm, like something heavy being dragged. Stopped, and then silence. Mommy Mia's voice was barely above a whisper. I know, sweetie, I know, Sarah replied, her nerves fraying with each passing moment. What if they weren't alone in the house? What if it was still there? As they reached the top landing, Sarah hesitated, her instincts screaming for her to move, to find a room, to lock them in. But another crash echoed from downstairs. This sound was sharper, more deliberate, as if the figure was hunting through their home, searching for them. Pick a room, Mia. Quick, Sarah urged, her mind racing. Mia hesitated, fear etching deeper lines across her tiny face. I don't want to. Please. We need to hide. They darted into the first room. They found her bedroom, shutting the door as quietly as they could manage. The darkness enveloped them like a shroud. The phone screen lit up the room, casting harsh shadows across the walls, illuminating the disarray. Clothes strewn on the floor, a discarded shoe tucked beneath the bed. It all felt wrong, like they didn't belong here anymore. Sarah crouched next to Mia, their backs pressed against the door. She could almost feel the vibrations of something moving, searching. Is he coming? Mia's wide eyes darted toward the door, as if she hoped to catch a glimpse of the monster lurking just outside. Stay quiet, Sarah whispered, panic rising in her throat like vomit. She could hear her own heartbeat echoing in the silence. A countdown thump fueling her dread. Another thud resounded through the house, closer this time, like footsteps. A low whisper curled around her ears, indistinguishable words weaving through the air, chilling her. Something was calling to them. Something was hungry. What if he finds us? Mia's breath quickened, a shallow pant that mirrored Sarah's own rising fear. He won T. We're safe here. But even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her insides. What if they weren't safe? Then a sharp crack followed a sound like snapping wood. Sarah's heart dropped. The closet door, had it just moved? Holding her breath, she turned slowly to look. The door was ajar, the darkness inside more profound than the shadows everywhere else. Mommy, what's that? Mia whispered, her voice trembling. With her heart lodged in her throat, Sarah stood and moved toward the closet, body tensed, hands stretching out to grasp the door. Stay behind me. She pulled it open, revealing the nothing but darkness, the chilling abyss threatening to swallow them whole. And then, a voice, deep and unnatural, whispered from the darkness. Let me in. What else was stirred within that black void? Her heart raced as she peered inside, a sense of dread washing over them both. But before she could react, something lunged forward. Was it already too late? The closet door swung wide open, revealing only the void within. But a sudden rush of air pushed against Sarah's face, gritty and cold. Felt alive, swirling around them. Mia gasped, clutching her mother's leg tighter, her tiny fingers digging in. Get back! Sarah shouted, urgency flooding her words. She stumbled backward, dragging Mia with her, bumping into the bedpost. The room spun with shadows, and the echo of footfalls thundering downstairs filled the silence. The voice from the closet didn't fade. It whispered again, each word dripping with malice. Let me and I can help you help? Sarah hissed, her heart racing faster, her entire body screaming to flee. But she couldn't move, locked in place by fear and the palpable darkness that lingered. What kind of help? Let me in, the voice cooed, enticing and seductive. You can be safe if you just let me in. Mia shook her head, eyes wide. Mommy, I don't like it. Please don't. But curiosity tugged at Sarah, her instincts clouded by the terror that gripped her. What if this thing could actually help? Desperation clawed at her mind, but every rational thought warned her to tread carefully. Before she could answer, a crash erupted from the downstairs hallway, a violent sound that rattled the house, as if something had smashed through. Sarah's heart leaped into her throat. We need to go now. She turned, yanking Mia toward the bedroom door. Just as they reached the threshold, the closet began to shudder violently. A dark mist oozed from the doorframe, pooling over the floorboards, swirling like a tempest contained. Shapes within the mist flickered and shifted, making her stomach turn. We can't stay here, Sarah cried, her voice raw. They sprinted toward the door, but before she could grasp the knob, the closet door slammed shut with a deafening bang. The force sent vibrations rippling through the room, displacing the air around them. The eerie voice transformed, now a guttural snarl that echoed off the walls. You can't leave. Adrenaline surged as Sarah pounded on the door, yanking it with all her strength. The world outside felt miles away, like a different dimension. She threw her weight against the door, breathing hard, each thrust fueled by panic and determination. Mia, go! Run! Tears streaked down Mia's cheeks as she mirrored her mother's frantic energy, darting for the window. But the glass was frozen in place, not budging despite Mia's small frame throwing herself against it. Mommy! Break it! Sarah yelled. Break the window! But from above, they heard a deep laugh, low and vicious, vibrating through their bones. The closet door opened, spilling more black mist into the room, creeping toward them like fingers reaching out to claim them. Why don't you let me in? The voice caressed their ears, but now it was more menacing. An invitation turned threat. You'll never escape. Sarah racked her mind for anything. What could she do? She pulled Mia close, their chests heaving in unison as the shadows danced ever closer. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. Pictures began swing wildly, glasses tumbling from the shelves with shattering crashes. Mommy, it's going to hurt us. But just as despair threatened to pull her under, something flickered in her memory, an old family story about the house. Something about the spirit trapped within and a way to break free. Mia, we have to face it. We have to confront it. With shaking hands, she pushed her back against the wall. Her heart thundered painfully in her chest. The whisper returned, a chorus of trapped voices rising within the mist. We can be free together, N.O. Sarah screamed, drawing from the depths of her fear. You don't control us. The walls shuddered, and with one final surge of determination, she shouted, Get out of our lives. But would her words be enough to shatter the hold this thing had over them? Would the darkness relent? As the room trembled and shadows lunged, Sarah and Mia braced for the truth lurking in the shadows, praying to find a way to escape before it was too late. Outside, the wind howled, but within that room, an even more furious storm began to rise, one that would either bring their salvation or drag them into eternal darkness. Then, just as the shadows lunged, a bone-chilling scream pierced the air, halting their hearts in terror. What had just happened? Was it already too late to fight back? The darkness surged and flickered, the air thickening with anticipation. Sarah pressed Mia closer, feeling the little one's heart racing like a drum against her ribcage. They stood there, suspended in fear, as the closet opened wider. A yawning abyss that felt impossibly inviting and terrifying all at once. Something flickered within that was more than just mist. Shadows coalesced into forms, distorted faces caught in a permanent scream. The voices grew louder, an eerie echo that filled the air, weaving in and out of coherence. Join us, they crooned, and for a moment, Sarah's resolve felt weak against their call. Mommy, I don't want to, Mia whimpered, pulling back, her small frame trembling. No, sweetheart, Sarah shouted, shaking her head violently. There had to be a way out. She felt the rush of cold air from the closet seeping into her bones, a palpable force of dread. She thought of the house's story, the unfinished tale. Memories of childhood ghost stories swirled within her mind. It's just a trick. We're stronger than this. The floorboards creaked ominously beneath them, a low growl rumbling through the walls. Suddenly, the handle of the bedroom door rattled against the wood, sending a fresh wave of panic surging through her. What if there's something out there? She wondered. Something worse than whatever this is. Mommy! The closet! Mia cried, her finger pointing. Like a heavy curtain, the mist slithered outwards, inching towards Sarah and Mia, swirling like storm clouds before a massive downpour. The shadows laughed now, a harrowing sound that rang hollow in their chest. "Leave us alone," Sarah shouted, her breath hitching. The power of her voice seemed to momentarily stall the encroaching darkness, but it was a fragile victory. She clenched her fists, resolve stealing in her gut. "We will not be part of your world." But just then, a loud crash echoed from downstairs, drawing their attention. A figure, a distorted silhouette, flashed at the bottom of the staircase, just outside the room. Sarah's heart dropped. What was happening? Was it a person or something worse? The shadows surged toward her, sensing her fear. "Mommy!" Mia screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please, we need to go." "No, we need to stay together," she yelled back, trying to keep her composure. Sarah steeled herself, scanning the chaos for anything they could use. The room quaked again, and the mist drew ever closer, fingers of darkness brushing against her ankles. In that moment, she noticed the old trunk nestled in the corner, dust-covered and forgotten. Her heart raced with a sudden idea. "Mia, hold on." She dashed for it, flinging open the lid just as the shadows lunged toward her, wrapping around her legs like icy chains. "Mommy, help me," Sarah shouted, forcing herself to ignore the gnashing whispers crowding her mind, drowning them out with sheer willpower. She rummaged through the trunk, her hands shaking as she searched desperately for anything that could help them break free. Finally, her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. She yanked it out, a flickering, rusty lantern. Its glass was cracked, and it flickered erratically, nearly extinguishing. "Come on," she shouted, gripping the lantern as tightly as she could manage. She turned back toward the encroaching darkness wrapping around their legs. "You will not take us." With every ounce of strength, she swung the lantern overhead, its weak light sputtering into existence as she aimed it at the mist, praying desperately it would hold some power. "Get back." The shadows recoiled, hissing in fury, and for the first time, Sarah sensed their fear as if the light had cut through their dark, twisted hold. But would this flicker be enough to save them? Or was the darkness only waiting for its moment to strike back with greater force? A terrifying growl echoed from the depths of the house, louder and more menacing than before, vibrating through the floor and rattling their bones. The lantern's flame wavered ominously as they stood on the brink, uncertain of the outcome. Then came a whisper, more confident than before, threading its way into Sarah's mind. "I can help you. If you just let me in." What could she trust? I want to let you in," Sarah yelled, standing her ground. Yet part of her wondered if she had the strength to hold on through the storm that was about to come. Would the light obliterate the shadows, or would its flicker snuff out? The lantern dimmed further. The storm surged. With dread-filled hearts, they awaited the chaos at their door. What waited beyond? The shadows pressed in on Sarah and Mia, a suffocating heaviness that seemed to twist the very air around them. The lantern flickered, struggling to hold onto its flame as the guttural growl reverberated through the walls of the house, each pulse of sound resonating deep within Sarah's chest. She could feel the fear coursing through Mia, a small body trembling in her arms, and it fueled a fierce resolve. "Just hold on," Sarah murmured, trying to instill a sense of strength into her voice. But she felt the words slip away, lost like hope in that cursed place. The lantern flickered wildly, casting grotesque shadows that twisted into horrific shapes, monstrous figures leering from the corners of the room. The whispers grew louder, seductive and venomous, a symphony of despair. "Let us in, we can protect you, we can keep you safe." "No," Sarah shouted, her voice ringing out like a plea, a desperate prayer. She raised the lantern higher, feeling its weight as the light flickered. "You're liars. You want to take us." For a moment, the darkness pulled back, the shadows retreating as if stung. But it was a mere pause, a ceaseless wave ready to crash over them again. The crash downstairs sounded again, the familiar figure now moving, creeping like a predator, inching closer with every heartbeat. Sarah felt pure dread mix with adrenaline. "Mommy, I want to go home," Mia sobbed, her tiny hands clutching tighter around Sarah's waist. "Me too, baby. But we need to be brave, we need to fight," Sarah responded, trying to swallow down her terror. The weight of her own childhood memories flooded in. Creeping doubts whispered against the walls of her resolve. What if they didn't make it out? Before she could process her fears, the lights in the room began to flicker too, matching the lantern's shaky flame. The house rumbled, and with it came a deep, chilling laughter that felt alive. Join us, we won't let you go," it sang, and the voices twisted into something dark and menacing. The door rattled harder now. It sounded like it wanted to break free, to enter. Sarah could see the handle twisting as if something waited on the other side. Something she didn't dare to imagine. Panic rippled through her. They had to move. "Mia." She grabbed her daughter's hand tightly, pulling them both toward the window, the last shred of hope glimmering like stars beyond the fog. "There. We can jump out." "Mommy, it's too high." The room shook, shadows swirling angrily as if protesting their escape. Her heart raced, but so did her determination. "We have to try." But just as she prepared to leap, a blinding flash erupted from the closet, illuminating everything and causing the shadows to screech and recoil. "What?" Sarah gasped, the unexpected burst of light staving off darkness momentarily. Mia shielded her eyes as the light bounced around them like fireflies, but it felt wrong. Tinged with a cold that gnawed at her heart, in the center of the sickly glow stood a ghostly figure, a woman, face obscured but eyes gleaming with malice. "You've entered my realm," she hissed, her voice echoing as if carried by the wind. "None may leave." Panic surged anew, yanking at Sarah's insides. "No, we're not part of your sick game." The lantern flickered out completely, leaving them bathed in the ghostly light, every corner of the room darkening. A wave of cold washed over them, a chilling force that made Sarah's skin prickle, and from the corners, shadows began pooling. "Join us or perish," the figure whispered. Mia's grip slackened, and Sarah felt the icy tendrils of fear wrapping around her heart. "Mia!" she screamed, turning back, but the girl had a distant look in her eyes, mesmerized by the chant of the dark figure. "No, you can't." All at once, every shadow seemed to claw at them, hungry and desperate. Sarah squinted against the light, clutching Mia close. "I won't let you take us." But as the shadows surged, her voice felt like a mere whisper against the gale of terror. Would they be forced into the abyss, or could they break free from its grasp once and for all? Just then, another crash thundered through the house, and Sarah's heart raced with dread as the chilling voice echoed one last time. "Your choice soon comes, darkness or despair." What would be the outcome of their fight for survival? The air crackled with a tension so thick it felt like a living thing, wrapping around Sarah and Mia as they faced the ghostly woman. Her presence loomed, unnatural and wrong, vibrancy draining from the room. The lights dimmed further, and Sarah felt her heart hammering against her ribs, a frantic drumming that echoed the chaos inside her mind. "Mia, please!" Sarah cried, desperation clawing at her throat. "Look at me." But Mia stood transfixed, a puppet to the haunting whispers. Shadows danced around the girl's tiny frame, fingers of darkness reaching out, pulling at her consciousness. "No!" Sarah shouted again, shaking Mia's shoulders, her hands sweaty with terror. When terror grips you this tight, it's hard to breathe. "Mia, you need to come back to me." It was as if a clock had stopped, time suspended in that horrible moment. The figure stepped closer, features still hidden, only eyes blazing like cold fire. "Your child is meant for this place. She will thrive in the shadows." The voice coiled around them, thick and sticky, wrapping Sarah in an assault of despair. "No, she won't." Sarah yelled, racing fears fueling a sudden surge of courage. You can't have her. With shaking hands, she grabbed the lantern, its emptiness haunting as she swung it wildly, desperately searching for a flicker of light. The air felt charged, every breath filled with frost. Suddenly, the walls seemed to shift, shadows groaning and stretching, as if the house itself was alive, and it hated them. You're too late, the ghostly figure hissed. Darkness is already here. The sound of claws scraping against wood echoed from the hallway, chilling Sarah's soul. She could feel it, a pulsating darkness inching closer, a tangible fear that swelled like an ocean wave ready to break. Mia, run, she shrieked, her voice raw. But Mia only stood there, entranced, eyes still locked on the figure, swaying slightly. Sarah felt the burning urge to pull her away, to break the spell, but the shadows were swirling now, wrapping tight around her little girl's legs. Fight it, Sarah urged. Please, you have to fight it. Just then, the blinding flash returned, illuminating the room, and for a fleeting moment, the shadows recoiled. Sarah saw the fear in Mia's eyes. It was barely there, but it was enough. Grasping that flicker of hope, Sarah lunged forward, breaking through the darkness that encased her daughter. Mia, she whispered fiercely. We're leaving. They were both suddenly plunged into a scorching darkness as the light faded again, leaving them suspended in an abyss. Sarah's heart raced, anxiety bubbling like a boiling pot. Where to go? The instinct of survival kicked in. Take my hand, she commanded, holding out her trembling fingers. The shadows howled in agony, retreating just long enough for Mia to snap out of the trance. She blinked at Sarah, pupils wide, filled with confusion and fear. It was all the opening Sarah needed. Mia reached for her mother's hand, and a wave of warmth enveloped Sarah like a shield. Run. Together, they dashed towards the door, a solid barrier against the chaos swirling behind them. The eerie laughter clawed at their heels, but in the dim light, Sarah could see a crack under the door, an escape, a glimmer of possibility. Do you see that? She shouted, urging Mia on. That's our way out. But just as they reached the door, a sinister growl erupted from the shadows behind them, resonating deep in Sarah's bones. You truly believe you can leave? The figure's voice thundered, reverberating through the walls. Sarah inched toward the light, her heart pounding, as she pulled Mia closer, fear and hope colliding within her. But in her gut, a dreadful sense of unease settled. We're almost there, we can make it. The door shook violently, the shadow's wrath strong enough to tear through the wood. The latch began to bend, the hinges squealed, and Sarah pressed against the door, her breath quickening. Now, in that split second, the door blasted open, and the force of the shadows surged forward like a wave. Breathless, Sarah and Mia stumbled out into the night, but the horrifying truth loomed behind them. Your choice is far from over. The whisper floated on the night air, chilling them to the bone. Was their escape really an escape at all? Or were they destined to face the darkness again? As adrenaline surged, and the cold wind wrapped around them, the echoing laughter rang out behind them, beckoning them to turn back. What awaited them in the chilling shadows of their choice? The ground beneath Sarah's feet felt unsteady, as if the earth itself was warning her away. She clutched Mia's hand tighter, a lifeline against the encroaching darkness. Each breath came in desperate gasps, a sharp contrast to the cold night air that swirled around them like smoke from a dying fire. Where do we go? She whispered, panic tightening its grip on her throat. Mom? Mia's voice trembled, almost swallowed by the night. Her eyes darted around, searching, pleading. What was that thing? Sarah hesitated, the weight of 100 fears crashing over her. I don't know, baby, she admitted, pulling Mia closer. But we have to keep moving. They stumbled forward, shadows looming large, stretching out like gnarled fingers eager to reclaim what they almost lost. The laughter lingered, teasing at the edges of her sanity, woven through the chilling breeze. We can't stop. We need to get to the car, Sarah urged, her heart pounding like a war drum, drowning out all sense. But with every step into the night, Sarah felt the shift in the air, thick, oppressive, as if the world was watching. The trees loomed dark and twisted, their silhouettes clawing at the starlit sky, and each rustle of leaves echoed like a sinister whisper. Suddenly, a loud crack split the silence. A branch broke nearby, sending Sarah jumping, instinctively dragging Mia behind her, as if she could shield her from the unseen horrors. "Keep close," she murmured, her voice barely above a breath. Mia nodded, her skin pale under the moonlight. "Mom, I heard something. I think it's following us." The icy tendrils of dread crawled up Sarah's spine, chilling her bones. She hadn't wanted to admit it, but the night had taken on a life of its own, thrumming with dark energy. Fear seeped into her every thought. Were they really out of danger? The figure still haunted the edges of her mind, its eyes burning relentlessly, mocking their escape. Just a bit further toward the road, she urged, her legs pushing forward, though every ounce of her felt weighed down. They needed to find a light, a sign of safety. Straining her ears, she thought she caught the faint sound of a vehicle. Hope flickered, fragile but necessary. Just when they seemed to be reaching the roadside, a howling wind swept through the trees, drowning out all other sounds. Sarah stumbled, her heart dropping as the shadows seemed to swell around them, curling and twisting into a whirlwind of fear. "Mia!" she shouted, grabbing her daughter's hand. But Mia froze, her eyes wide yet unfocused, as if caught in a trance once more. "No, you can't." Before she could finish her thought, the figure reemerged from the depths of the darkness, manifesting with an unbearable intensity that stole the breath from Sarah's lungs. "You thought you could escape?" it hissed, voice echoing like a dirge. "The darkness needs you both. I'll show you a world beyond your comprehension." Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, forcing back the encroaching terror. She couldn't let Mia fall under that spell again. "I love you. Fight it, Mia." The girl blinked, shaking her head hard, and Sarah caught a flicker of awareness returning to her eyes. Their bond was stronger than the shadows, stronger than the whispers clawing at their minds. Just then, the laughter crescendoed, sharp and mocking, and Sarah felt her own organism like fear rise again. "No more. This ends now," she shouted, an echo of defiance against the void. She took a step forward. The world around them quaked, and the figure stilled, momentarily thrown off by Sarah's courage. She seized the moment, pulling Mia with her towards what she hoped was salvation. But the path was obscured, and just as they lunged forward, the ground beneath them shuddered, a bare shimmer of light off in the distance. Was it real? The shadows roared in fury, a tidal wave of malice crashing down on them. In that paralyzing instant, the choice to flee echoed loudly within her. Would they risk it all, or would they succumb to the darkness? The ground shook again. Sarah looked at Mia, determination etched on her face. "We run together. Now." With a sprint fueled by love and desperation, they dashed toward the light, the laughter of the unseen fading behind them. But shadows lurked still, hungry for a chance to reclaim what they had lost. What lay at the end of their perilous dash? An ally, or had the darkness merely been biding its time? The moment their feet hit the ground, the shimmer of light was deceiving, flickering like a candle fighting to stay lit. As they bolted forward, Sarah felt a pulse, a steady vibration in the air, as if the very atmosphere was warning them to turn back. The laughter, now a malicious cackle, clung to their heels, a tangible reminder that they were not truly safe. "Faster," Sarah urged, pulling Mia along. The weight of dread pressed down on them, and every heartbeat resonated like a drum calling them into the abyss. The shadows seemed to part and close behind them, relentless as they pursued. "Mom," Mia cried, her voice rising with desperation. "What if they catch us?" "We won't let them," Sarah panted, squeezing Mia's hand tighter, a tether to her fading resolve. "We'll find the light." Just then, a blinding beam shot toward them, illuminating the night for a breathless moment. Sarah's heart raced with hope, but as quickly as it came, the light vanished, swallowed by rolling darkness. The tangle of trees seemed to bend closer, branches clawing as if seeking to drag them back into the shadows. "Keep running," Sarah yelled, though fear gripped her throat. She was losing track of direction. The chaos around them spun and twisted, fighting against her focus. With every step, the feeling of the ground rumbling grew stronger, a threatening growl lurking just below the surface. Suddenly, the atmosphere thickened, pressing in like a vice. There was an uneasy quiet, a terrible stillness that made the hairs on Sarah's neck stand on end. She dared not look back, but the unease gnawing at her gut urged her to glance over her shoulder. What she saw stole the breath right from her lungs. The figure loomed behind them, indistinct yet distinctly malevolent, a silhouette with glowing eyes that bored into her soul, igniting primal fear. "You belong to the dark, Sarah," it hissed, voice teasing and smooth, echoing against the trees. "You have always belonged." "No," Sarah shouted, refusing to let despair take hold. The words ripped through her, desperate, fierce. She could not let Mia see her falter. "We're not yours." But the creature laughed, a sound that twisted, exploded against the silent night. "You cling to a fragile hope. You both belong here now. There is no escape." They sprinted on, and behind them, the laughter morphed into something that felt almost familiar, a mocking echo of moments from their lives. Their laughter, their fears. Each cruel taunt felt sharp, like knives stabbing at her spirit. "You can't escape your past, you can't escape me." As they reached a clearing, the pale moonlight bathed the area in an eerie glow, illuminating their path ahead. Across the clearing, jagged rocks jutted like the teeth of some great beast waiting to devour them whole. In the center stood what looked like a forgotten shrine, its stones old and cracked, overgrown with creeping vines. "Mom, what is that?" Mia whispered, her voice a mix of fear and curiosity, eyes wide as she stared at the strange structure. "I don't know," Sarah breathed, the words hanging heavy in the air. The shrine felt like a beacon, calling them, urging them to get closer. "But we can't stop now. Maybe there's a way out before they could move." The ground beneath their feet trembled violently, and cracks appeared, fissures of darkness spilling out like ink in water. "The darkness is craving what is rightfully its own," the figure screeched, its voice dripping malice. "Step closer and let it welcome you or run into the void." With terror clawing at her very core, Sarah exchanged a glance with Mia, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them. "We need to decide," Sarah said, breathless. "Do we go to the shrine, or do we face whatever lies behind us?" The shadows surged, eager to claim their frightened souls, while the laughter crescendoed into a chaos that threatened to consume them. Mia pleaded, caught between terror and the thrill of whatever lay ahead. While uncertainty loomed heavy, Sarah gritted her teeth, determination fueling her spirit. "Together, always," she whispered fiercely. But as they stood poised to make a choice, the ground shook again, deeper this time, making their resolve falter. How could they outrun a darkness that claimed dominion over their fear? The haunting call of the figure echoed, "What lies beyond is greater than life. What will you sacrifice to save each other?" They needed to decide now, but would they discover salvation? Or was the darkness merely beginning to unveil its true intentions? The harrowing choice loomed large over Sarah and Mia as the air thickened with foreboding. Darkness swirled around them, whispering promises that felt like venom. They stood at the edge of a precipice, the unknown stretching out like an abyss, while shadows writhed at their feet. "Mom, please!" Mia's voice trembled, her small frame quaking with fear. "I don't want to go back there." "I know, sweetheart," Sarah said, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. "But we have to move forward. It's the only way." The uncertainty gnawed at her, but she gripped Mia's hand tighter, their connection a lifeline against the dark tide threatening to swallow them whole. With every ounce of courage, Sarah forced her feet to move toward the shrine. The stones were jagged and weathered, engraved with markings that seemed to pulsate with an ancient energy. It radiated a flicker of light, just enough to push back the shadows that threatened at every corner. "There has to be a way to break this," Sarah said, her voice wavering slightly. As they reached the base of the shrine, they felt an overwhelming rush of wind, tugging at their clothes and hair as if urging them to retreat. "No," "We're not afraid," Sarah shouted defiantly, the sound echoing back at them through the trees. The figure loomed closer, its laughter puncturing the night with a mocking glee. "You run toward chains, Sarah. You will never break free." "Shut up," she roared, turning to face it fully, allowing her desperation to transform into wrath. "You do not own me." Mia hid behind her mother's leg, eyes wide with fear, but in that moment, Sarah could sense a flicker of strength in her little girl. "Believe in us, Mia. We can fight together." Mia nodded, clutching her mother's waist tightly. "Together, always," she echoed, invoking their whispered mantra, a promise forged in love and unity. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if the bond between them was a beacon piercing through the veil of darkness. "Now," Sarah urged. They stepped toward the shrine, the air shimmering with latent energy. As Sarah placed her palm flat against the cold surface, a pulse traveled through her, a vibration resonating deep within her core. The shrine was alive. "Let us in," the shadows hissed, hungry and relentless. "Let all fear be yours." "No," Sarah screamed, her voice rising above the cacophony. "We are not here for you. We will not fall into your trap." Suddenly, the markings on the stones illuminated, radiating an ethereal glow that pushed back the surrounding shadows. Mia's frantic voice broke through her concentration. The figure surged, desperate to reclaim what it claimed belonged to it. "Trust me, Mia," Sarah yelled, standing firm, willing the stone's energy to envelop them. "Trust in the light." The energies collided, a surge of warmth flowing through her. The shadows shrieked, pulling back, wavering like smoke against a flame. "Feed it your light, Mommy," Mia cried, clutching the warmth radiating from the shrine as she pressed her palm against her mother's back, channeling that newfound energy. With that flow of light, Sarah felt the chains of darkness that bound their spirits begin to melt away. The shadows writhed, losing their grip, as legitimacy and strength surged through them. "Now together," Sarah commanded. The air exploded with light as they summoned every ounce of courage, tossing back despair. The shadows shattered like glass, raining fragments of darkness away from them, cleansing the atmosphere with every heartbeat. Mia's wide eyes shone like stars. "Keep going, Mommy." With a defiant roar, Sarah held her daughter close, and together, they stepped fully into the light. A blinding flash enveloped them, and for a moment, it felt as though they were being pulled apart, the energies swirling and dancing around them. The laughter, they could still hear it, but it was fading, retreating, weakening under the onslaught of their united hearts. And then silence, as blinding light dimmed, revealing the familiar landscape of Maplewood bathed in dawn's soft glow. Sarah inhaled deeply, the scent of fresh earth and morning dew filling her lungs. Unearthed, that sensation of safety, sweet and invigorating, coursed through her veins. Mia squealed as she twirled in disbelief, her laughter spilling like music across the quiet street. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes, a mix of relief and gratitude. "We did it, Mia. We broke free." They embraced tightly, colliding joy and disbelief within that moment. Maplewood, once tainted with a chilling specter, now felt alive again, as if the darkness had been lifted like a heavy fog unveiling the sun. But as they broke the embrace, a low whisper tickled the back of Sarah's mind, a chilling reminder. "I'll be waiting." She shook her head, grounding herself in the now. "We won, let you back in. You've lost," she whispered fiercely. And so, together, they walked back towards their home, hearts alight with hope, understanding they were each other's true strength. As the sun rose higher, it cast warm rays over Maplewood, washing away the remnants of the night. Thank you for joining us on this intense journey. Make sure you subscribe immediately to our channel, so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that will shake your soul. Smash that like button now to support the algorithm, as your gestures help unlock more thrilling narratives. We want to hear your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your participation means the world to us. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this spine-chilling conclusion. Only true fans would understand the importance of supporting our channel through these actions.